Hello, everybody. Welcome to show 900. Tonight, a little history of how I started the Mike Tech Show 19 years ago. And I have certain milestones, certain years that I'm going to cover. And I pulled up some audio that I'm not going to play on this show, but I'm going to link for you. For those of you, some of you may remember it and have been with me since show one. Others who are new listening to the podcast, welcome, thank you, and I'm going to give you a little history. So 19 years ago, on March 6th, I actually recorded it on the 5th. March 6th, I posted my first podcast, and I have been going on and on ever since. 900 shows over 19 years. If I have done one every week, that would have been 988. So you got to figure holidays, different being sick, family emergencies, vacations. There was all sorts of things in there, but I think 900 is pretty good. So why did I start doing this? And I'm so glad that two of my sons are here, one with me, and if Michael Jr., please say hello.
Hello, everybody.
And you can actually see him if you watch this on YouTube when I post it up. And Michael's down here visiting me for this week as we go to Phillies games and do all sorts of stuff. But one of the things I want to do is, why did I start this? And there's a couple things, and one's not in the notes, but a shout out to my son Ryan, because he would listen to me in the basement say the answers to questions of other podcasts and other shows before they said the answer. And Ryan kind of pushed me a little and said, "Why don't you do this, Dad?" And I got a microphone. I got a very cheap mixer, and I started. And I figured out, wow, I need a website. And so I selected, I don't even know if they're around, a hosting company called Brinkster. And I started a show and posted it up. And on the March 6th, 2005. And a few days later, I got an email from someone who listened to the show. And I'll never forget it. And I'll never forget your name, Tom. Trucker Tom. And he drives a truck for a living. He used to be in IT. He gave it up to drive a truck. And one of the things later on when he emailed me that he appreciates listening to all the problems that I talk about and discuss. And he's so happy that he's not involved in the IT world anymore and he drives a truck. But he loves listening to how others suffer with the technology. And I just thought that was great. But his first email, when he talks about what he's doing and how he found the show, I forget what directory I posted it in, and he closes the letter with the following line: "I want you to know that I am out here and I am listening." That did it. That's it. I mean, that's what makes you record the second show. And then the third. Then also, I got to credit some influences and something that also literally brings a tear to my eye. Waiting to hear this. So the daily source code was, we'll call the Podfather, and that is Adam Curry from MTV. And he had the daily source code, which was the first really big podcast. He helped invent what is the portion of the RSS feed, and he had the idea, but someone else programmed it, where, hey, if you have this RSS feed for linking the websites, why can't you load an audio file? And that was invented, and there was the birth of podcasting and being able to subscribe. Now, from a technology standpoint, and he's still going strong, Geek News Central, Todd Cochran, I listen to him all the time. In the trenches, and I credit him because that's Kevin Devon, who pod faded years ago, but I loved his podcast because it was stories from the trenches. He lived and battled the administrative things that I was living in the corporate world and loved listening to that. But now, here's the big thing. This man was, before podcasts, he had a pirate radio show on the internet on Saturday afternoons, and it's Andy Graham Computer Beat radio show. He still has an old website, computerbeat.com, and I'm linking to it because you got to read something. He lists his favorite shows and podcasts, and he stopped years and years ago, and I would listen all the time. He has a little computer shop. He would talk about the people that brought in the computers. He talked about the viruses that he had and the different software at the time to fight the viruses. But if you take a look at that website right now, at the top of the list of all the he's only got a handful of podcasts, and he has the Mike Tech Show, and he puts, it's my favorite. Andy and I have never spoken. We've never met, but he did such a tremendous job on crafting how he presented the content and telling the stories and how he did it. I was so I was so engaged that when it came time for me to do it, I couldn't think of anything better. So Andy, thank you so much. I hope you hear this. So another thing I'll tell you that I miss, and that is the free music that you were able to play that was posted on a site called GarageBand.com. That has since went under, but GarageBand.com, Apple bought it because they have software called GarageBand. But it was free software for artists to list the music. It was sort of like MySpace or Facebook for artists. And they could play, and you could download it and play it on anything. And it's how I met different people and how I played different songs. And it was like I got to learn about different artists, including this one. And I'm going to play her bumper because I learned of her through GarageBand, and now can't wait to see her on tour. And here. Oh, it's taking a minute.
Hey, this is singer-songwriter Liz Longley, and you're listening to Mike Smith, host of the Mike Tech Show at MikeNation.net.
That is Liz Longley. That is great. So I was playing her music. I was playing all kinds of music that you would have never heard, and to help promote that independent artist. I still believe in that. But now, if I include any music at all, it is ripped out because of the streaming rights and YouTube. Because I ultimately want to I post this up on YouTube, they will censor and take out the music, including my intro and outro that I used to have, that I have the permission of the artist, but that doesn't matter. You know, having the permission of the artist is still not enough to be able to play it. So that's where we're at. That's a whole different story, but I do miss that, and it's something I used to love playing. And then every show people would respond to that, and it was a lot of fun, and would recommend other music, and it was pretty cool. I played music from Michael, your godmother's daughter. Okay, played put out an album, and I actually played music from it. Hold on, now I'm embarrassed. Who
Kylie.
Kylie, who's the daughter of Anne, who another Anne, of course, not my sister Anne, but another Anne, who is Michael Jr.'s godmother, and she, loved it when I was playing. As a matter of fact, she went to the musical school of Berkeley, where Liz Longley was. So, very interesting when I spoke with Kylie about that. So, very, just a small world. So, I started consulting on the side. I was in the corporate world, and I started consulting on the side in the 90s to help bring in extra income and have, just more to play with. And I would say more to feed my hardware habit of needing the latest, greatest hardware and technology, and that costs money. So it's nice when you start consulting on the side and that extra money, and then you get to deduct that because that really was for the business, and I was doing it for the show. So a couple things happened early on, and I have another note here that I missed. One of the key, I guess, what would you call it? My directive or, motivation was tips and tricks that will make you more productive. As simple as that. That's what I want to do. I also look at what I do. I am the conduit between problems and solutions. I will read problems from emails, and then I'll get a stack of email from other listeners, and I will read that. And that's something I look at that as, go between. Now, after 19 years, I have no sponsors right now. So my last two sponsors were cutting back to save money and changed. I'm going to mention them because the very first sponsor, early on, I think show 7, I had a sponsor, and it was Nitro Security. And it was because I knew the senior vice president from the corporate world. And he started listening to my show, and he says, "Hey, how can I get our products on the show?" And, one of the classic shows that I did, and it was the first show that I ever got hate mail, and it was my wife, Dorothy. It was April Fool's. I mean, literally, my show, in 2005, it came on April. One of the nights was April Fool's, and there's even a story of why Thursday night. So I got to get to. So my wife loves cats, so I have her outline a whole show on cats, and she talks. She gets into it. She has the headset. She's in front of the microphone. I'm behind her. I say nothing. And she has a commercial for Nitro Security. It is the greatest thing to hear. My wife talking about cats, and without missing a beat, doing the Nitro Security commercial, and then continuing about cats. That was tremendous. So I get hate mail that, see, I didn't let anybody off the hook. See, I didn't say, April Fools or anything, because I figured everybody, it's April 1st. I'm not changing the show to a cat show. Hello, everybody. And there was a group of people that really didn't get it and were angry that the format of the show changed from technology to cats. You can't make this up. So I thought that was funny. And so couple things. After Nitro Security, I get invited to join the Tech Podcast Network, which was put together by actually Chuck Tomasi from Technorama and other people from the tech world that were just starting up. And there was like 4 or 5 podcasts, and they invited me to join the Tech Podcast Network. And they coordinated advertising. And I had Citrix GoToMeeting, GoDaddy, and Nitro Security. That was incredible. I mean, I was making more money 19 years ago for doing the show than I am today because of all that advertising. And it was great. And it helped me, I put it back into the show, buying hardware, getting a better mixer, getting a better microphone, tweaking the sound. And now you got video, which I actually, reluctantly joined the video, and that was all because of Ustream. One day, I get a call, I get an email from the owner and founder of Ustream. He was a listener of the Mike Tech Show. And he said, we post live video. This is way before YouTube. And he goes, what I would like you to do is, can you do your show on Thursday nights at 7:30? And I was like, what? I actually called him and I said, why 7:30? He says, because we don't have content at 7:30. And we would like to focus and promote your show at 7:30 on the front page of Ustream. I was like, are people going to watch me record an audio podcast? He said, you'd be shocked at what people will watch. And I started, and that's where 7:30 comes from on Thursday nights because of Ustream. Later on, years ago, Ustream gets bought by IBM, becomes crazy expensive. And I joined Twitch, which is where you're watching this live right now, really because of my son, Tyler. He knew Twitch from gaming, and he knew what was going on, and there was no other real free platform at the time that I could get a hold of and make it work. And so here I am on Twitch. Now, a big shout out to Magnus Box, who was a sponsor for like a year and a half, maybe 2 years, and I really appreciate them and their online backup storage, and I still resell it and use it. But the biggest sponsor that I've ever had, who stuck with me for years and years and years, I still use their product, and that is Instant House Call. And they have been amazing, and I really appreciate it. The Tech Podcast Network still exists, and I'm still part of it, actually. So I'm going to have a link to that. So now, 2008. 2008, I'm going to cover quickly. It's a big year for me because many things happen. I leave the corporate world. Or should I say, got the boot, don't let the door hit you in the butt. As I was leaving, but I got a great package as I was heading out the door, which really funded my consulting business, MHS Consulting. So towards the end of 2008, in October, I leave and I start MHS Consulting, and I'm going to have a link mhsconsulting.net. My first huge client is the Franklin Institute. They have so many problems. And remember, all of this, why am I talking about it? Well, this is the content. This is where the content comes from. If I wasn't consulting, if I wasn't working, what would I be talking about? So now I go and thank you, Taz. Taz just said July 2018. He remembers that's when I moved to Twitch. Wow, that's been 6 years. That's a lot longer than I thought. Anyway, Franklin Institute, their infrastructure was a mess, and I was brought in to clean it up, make it right, get rid of, revamp the whole networking team, help hire an IT director, tremendous consulting, and what a great reference as I move on. Then I joined BNI. That's Business Networking International. You've heard me talk about that. BNI, very, very important because it's a networking group where I looked at that when, let's say there's 30 members when I was there. And actually, my son's there now. He was actually president of the chapter last year. And I was there, and I look at it this way. If there's 30 people, well, that's 29 salesmen that you don't have to pay that are promoting you. And that's the way to look at BNI. Is it for everybody? No. Does it work for everybody? No. It works for us. And it helped get clients because one of my biggest problems was break fix. And I learned the hard way. Man cannot live by break fix alone. I can't wait for the phone to ring to make money to have a problem. And that's what break fix is. You wait until it breaks, you get the call, and you go fix it. I need retainer clients. And the person that helped me get there and even shared sample contracts is Carrie Holzman, who at the time was a co-host of Computer America, which was a national radio computer show with Greg Crossman. And I bring that up because a big listener who I haven't heard from in a long time, Barbara, who went by the name Citizen X, she listened to Computer America. She listened to my show. And she basically brokered the introduction for me and Carrie. And one of the really nicest things, as I put a show, I'm going to put the show link to the audio of show 500, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit, but I mention it because Carrie introduces me. And we started where I would join him every other Friday night on Computer America Live. I was like his regular guest on Friday nights. Or if a guest canceled, he would call me and say, come on, and join. And I said, what are we going to talk about? And he says, Mike, do we really need anything to talk about? He says, you and I can riff for 3 hours. And, he's right. And it's not a full 3 hours because you got so many commercials. But he's right. We had the ability to just get behind a mic, the two of us, and we could talk about anything for a long time. We spent a few years doing Tech Vets. That podcast has pod faded because Carrie's time just took too much. My time took too much. And we just couldn't get together enough that made us happy, with it. So we stopped Tech Vets. Let's go to 2013. And this is where Mike, I'm going to kind of hand it off to my son, Michael Jr., who was working at Comcast. I'm now 5 years into my consulting company, and it's either grow or not grow because, when you're one body, you just can't do it. So, how was it? How was life at Comcast?
Well, when I first started, it was great. I don't know if anybody remembers Comcast. Well, calling Comcast back 15 years ago, you remember the days where you press 1 for billing, 2 for sales, 3 for support? I think we all miss those days because now you call and it's a computer that tries to talk to you. And they rolled that out when I was there. And they had so many problems rolling that out that upper management decided, okay, until we figure this out, sales, your front line. Now I'm sales, so my commission structure is based on selling, and my hourly rate was set accordingly. So now I'm taking billing calls, I'm taking tech calls, which obviously I was good at. But then they rolled the retention queue on me, and that was hard. That was hard because those are the people that call in that are hot about their bill, and they're mad that their bill went up, and it's my fault, and they're yelling at me. And mentally, I just couldn't take it, and I was bringing it home. And, so that was messing that up a little bit. And I remember talking to my parents about that. And at the same time, my dad, and being several years in B&I, was complaining that he couldn't keep up with all the referrals that he was getting. So then it just made sense to go full time with you, which, I always worked for you, even when I was a kid.
Yes.
But us both in that position, it just kind of makes sense for me to go full time. And that was 11 years ago. And, I'm never looking back. And it's all thanks to BNI, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that and yes, the referrals I couldn't keep up. But now you were a what do you call that? An intern, right? At AmeriGas.
Yeah. Yeah.
For the desktop department. So he got to cut his teeth years ago, summers while he was in college, where AmeriGas needed help. I was the network manager, so he couldn't work for me. That wouldn't be right. So he worked for the desktop team, which is, you're in the trenches of all the little problems, of everybody in the building. So I thought that was really good experience.
Yeah, I'm able to bring everything together. I mean, my restaurant experience that I had gave me all the customer service experience that I have, all the internships that I had with you at AmeriGas, that gave me all the desktop and, solving computer problems, and then my sales experience at Comcast. And now I'm able to put literally all three of them together with MTS Consulting.
Think about that. I get a lot of emails where they want to know, how you can get started or how you could go. And hey, you take everything that you learn and you put it together and you can massage it and make it work for you for whatever you're doing. It doesn't have to be technology related, but it is. So that was 2013. We're gonna go right to 2014 because of Show 500. And one of the most proudest shows I've ever done is Show 129. You're like, well, why is that? Because I talk about it in Show 500, and I have a link to it in Show 500. When I put the link, it's going to be the web link to the show notes, but it's also, I'm posting a separate audio link. I found the audio and I reposted it up, and I'm going to relink it. 129 is preparing for the job interview, and that is still current today with sample resume, preparing for the job interview, job search sites. This still works. And I'm not sure, I didn't test all of these links, but if they don't work, email me and I'll get them reposted up because I have all of those PDFs. But I am I am really, really most proud of that because I feel responsible for getting jobs for many, many listeners that have written to me thanking me and saying they nailed the interview because of that. Show 500 also did something else. It was not only a big meetup, but it started what became the Unconvention for a couple years, and which has led to TechCon. So Show 500 was a meetup where people traveled to my area, and I got to thank Corey Fruitman from the owner of Instant House Call came down and he sponsored the lunch and really sponsored the show. And we had a great time. It was a lot of fun, and it showed, hey, you can get together and you can talk about a lot of things, and if you build it, they will come. So that's was sort of the kick in the butt and the start of what we now know of these little custom conventions. 2020, and this is something that changed my life, which I'm living right now. 2020 not only is the beginning of the pandemic in March, my wife and I are fortunate enough to find a property that we had already been coming down to Florida and looking, because I love my Phillies, as you know, and you can look around the room and you haven't seen half of it, what's in this room. And I love spring training, and I want to be part of that. My wife wants to be part of beaches. So this is an area that we both completely agree on, and we found a place and was able to put a deposit on it remotely. Pennsylvania is shut down. Florida, not quite as shut down, but you had to have social distancing. You still had to wear your mask. And we came down and went through the inspection. And then the following week, we were back in Pennsylvania and we closed on the property. And it has enabled me to become what I'm officially called a snowbird. In the winter, beginning of winter, I'll come down here. I didn't go back for any holidays this year, but I will next year for December. But I had people, my son Ryan, my son Tyler, and my wife comes down, tries to get down here every month almost. Luckily with frequent flyer and credit card points and Frontier Airlines, as long as you don't travel with any bags and care about your seat, you can fly pretty cheap. So we've been able to spend time together, but I've been able to relax and work remotely from right here where I'm doing this show tonight. Another shout out to someone who fed my memorabilia for the Phillies, and we bartered some materials and time for some one-of-a-kind unique paintings that covers an entire wall. And that's Paul, who is still, I know I mentioned this, I'm getting him down here, and he's going to join me on a show because he wants to talk about how we met and how I supported him. And it's a great story, and he wants to tell it. So I want Paul, I know you're listening, and you got to find a way down here. So, and that's how you'll go on the air. So we now have a second house in Florida, in Oldsmar, which is right between Tampa and Clearwater, and right outside Dunedin. So I'm right in the center of everything. And it's been a pleasure. You're close enough to the beach. I'm close enough to the Phillies. We got a game tomorrow. We got a game Saturday. I'm excited and having a lot of fun. And I've picked up a couple clients down here. So Not a lot, but I don't need a lot. I have a lot of work to do. I'm busier some days here than I would be up in Pennsylvania, and it's all remote because, let's face it, 95% of our work, I would say, is remote anymore, correct? Like unless new hardware, which which is funny because while we were down here, a church that shall remain nameless, but the church, I gave them a proposal for 4 computers a couple months ago and didn't hear from them. And yet yesterday, or the day before yesterday, they email me and say, okay, you'll get all 4. And I'm like, well, I got to check on the price. I don't know if the price is the same. So I, wrote my rep at Dell, and he was able to match the price, which was great. So I was like, okay, send me a check for half. So I ordered the 4 computers, and my wife dragged them in today. So the 4 computers are now waiting for Michael Jr. when he gets back. And I don't know when he's going to do it because next week is completely booked, right?
Yeah, I'm booked all week.
I know you have a plumbing move, a plumbing company that moved locations.
They moved to the location, yeah.
And we got all the wiring done with our wiring guy. Now you got to do all the tech and the infrastructure.
Yeah.
Oh my God, there's so much.
Then we have the cigar shop that we're waiting to get done.
Yep, cigar shop that we're doing the infrastructure. Hey, financial advisor, that's moving forward.
We're waiting for them too.
We're waiting for them, and that is a difficult because it's old historical building that the wiring has to be done. And we're so thankful that he's got his own wiring guy.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. He texted me yesterday morning. I forgot to tell you. He says, "What was that wire that they got to need?" And I said, Cat 6E. I want them to run on everything. So we have that happening. So we're busy, and knock wood that we're busy because I do not want to anger the consulting gods and complain. And we are very fortunate right now. And that brings us to 2024 and a couple things. Lessons. It's all, I don't care what you do. I don't care what field it is. I don't care if you want to do a podcast. I don't know if you want to do a TV show. You want to act. You'll want to manage a business. Become great at it. Have passion. It's passion and desire that will make it work. That's what you got to do. And here I am going on year 20, and I can't tell you how many people told me, it'll never work. You'll do a few shows and that's it. Yeah? Wait until you see how I'm motivated. That's, tell me I can't do something and I will master it. So that's how, so going to start my own consulting business. What did people say at my work and other places? You're not going to do it. You're not going to. Well, guess what? That was 13 years ago. Do not listen to the naysayers. You got to block them out. That's my advice. Have passion. And if you have the passion and the desire, you can accomplish anything. And that's what it takes. And did I have failures and pitfalls along the way? Of course. But that's when you knock down, you get back up. You bounce back up and you find a way and you keep going. You can't be stopped. And if you have that attitude, you can do anything that you put your heart and soul into it. And I want to thank everybody who's listened to the show from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your support. Kate, thank you for your very generous donation this week. I so appreciate it. That's how the show continues and moves on. It's donations. And email me, MikeTechShow@gmail.com. You can watch the show on YouTube, youtube.com/Michael Smith MTS. And I don't know who's still listening. And Matt, Mikey, Gracie, I've been doing this show for so long. It's for you in the future. Matt, I want you to someday go back. I could be long gone, but you can listen to these shows because some of that life advice that I give, I do that. It's not just tech. It is my online diary. That's what this is. And that's why I get personal. That's why when I broke my foot, when I broke my shoulder, I talked about it. I talked about the healing, talked about how it happened. I always bring that to you directly, honestly, and it's a way you can hear me and now see me because being on YouTube, this is my legacy. And I'm going to keep doing it for as long as I can get behind a mic and a camera and keep doing it. And it's all because of you and participating by your emails, by listening, by following and subscribing to the show. Thank you. And good night.